Hey everyone, thank you so much for visiting my video and checking out my channel. My name is Alan. What I'm going to do today is just show how to make a simple horizontal nav bar. And the reason why I decided to make this video is because I know that there are a ton, and when I mean a ton of resources out there, just like Stack Overflow, YouTube for a good example as well, uh, W3 Schools as well as MDN, but just sometimes like that just isn't enough on learning how to grasp. Like I feel like when I was learning to make a simple nav bar, like I just couldn't grasp the concept of things. I'm a visual learner, so visually seeing other people do it definitely helped out. But when I checked out videos, especially like on YouTube as well, um, those developers were making already like full size like whole web pages that included a nav bar, and they'd add like different stuff to it, and that like pretty much like didn't help out at the same time. Although they were great, don't get me wrong, but for me at that time like it just wasn't helping me try to grasp on how to make a nav bar. So this is why I decided to make this video. Hopefully it's able to help out anybody that's having trouble making a nav bar. I'm gonna try to do it like step by step. So yeah, let's get started. So what we're gonna do first and foremost is we are going to link the HTML to the .css file. And please do this because I can't tell you how many numerous times it's got to me where I'm already 20 minutes in doing my HTML, and then I move on to CSS, but for some reason like nothing's working. I try everything, nothing's working. And then after like another 10 to 15 minutes, 20 minutes sometimes, like I just realize, wait a minute, it's because I never linked it. If you don't link it, nothing, your page is not going to be styled. So let's go ahead and link it right here. So when we link it, we're gonna do link. And by the way, if anybody doesn't have this, it's definitely useful. To download Emmet, the M extension. It's pretty much just shortcuts on as you can see. Just typed in link and it just gave me everything else. It gives a shortcut on what you need, on different attributes, elements, and so on and so forth. But if you're beginning, I do recommend you pretty much just doing it off, just typing everything out. That way, through repetition, it gets easier and easier, and you understand why you're using what you're using. So, what we're going to do next here is inside of the href, we are going to do nav. We're going to enter the CSS file. So, we're going to do nav dash, I'm going to write it out, .css. And as you can see, it comes up over here, and you can just click it as well if you want. And we pretty much have it linked. So the next thing that we're going to do is inside of the body, we're going to do a nav element or nav tag. So we're going to do nav, and then we're going to press tab, and then it's going to come up. And throughout this video, you'll see me kind of like space everything out or take a few extra seconds just to space everything out. It's definitely helpful for me just to see um, how everything looks and how much better it is to read than having everything just like scrunched up and everything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the nav here. So one thing I want you to think about when making a nav bar is when you go to different pages, you're gonna see the nav bar have different titles. So it's gonna be like uh so we'll call it titles for now. It's gonna have pricing. It's gonna have, for example, pricing is gonna have about us, contact us, locations, and so on and so forth. So all of those titles, those are links. So what those links do is that once you click on that link, it either takes you to one section, a different section of the page pertaining to that link, or it is going to open up a brand new page all just for pertaining to that link there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the nav, and then we're gonna have a UL. Since they are using links and lists, we're gonna do unordered list for UL, and then we're gonna press enter. So the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna use the LI. So remember, when you're using unordered list, it's kind of like the beginning of using a list, and then LIs are the items in the list there. So we're gonna we're gonna use four links, so or four items. So what you can do is you can do type out li, then you can do multiply or asterisk, and then 4, and then press enter, and it gives out all of the items there. And as you can see as well, you see the bullet points there. So the next thing that we can do, and which is a great thing about M8 or like VS Code as well, is just to make it easier, you type in li. If you want 8 8 lists, by all means be my guest. Type in 8 and you have the 8 right here, which is pretty cool. But once again, we're going to use 4, and we're going to do li, multiply that by 4, and you have 4 items there. So what I'm going to do now is we are going to add the anchor tags inside of the lists. So before that, what I mean by spacing here, I'm just going to take a few more extra seconds. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to hold tab alt, and then just click everywhere else, which is definitely helpful because it helps you type all at once there, as you can see. So once again, click, hold down alt if you're using Windows, and then just click down or in any space that you want. So we're going to press enter, and then it spaces it out. So this is where we're going to add the anchor tags, which is great because it already has it highlighted. So we just continue. We press A for anchor, and then as you can see, it types it in all of the spaces that's highlighted. So lastly here, we're just going to space the anchor tag, and perfect. So we have here. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to have those links. We're gonna name the links. So the way we link it is, we name it. We just type it in here. So we're gonna think about a portfolio page, navbar. A navbar for portfolio. So normally in portfolios, you're gonna have about me section and about me section. And next, you're gonna have a, let's say, resume section. The next can be a project section, projects. And lastly is contact me. That way, if you're looking for freelance, or you're just sending out your page to different companies, they have a way to contact you there. So once we have that, pretty much the only thing that we do need to do is add a class. And we're just going to use one class since this is a simple navbar. We're just going to add a class here. So we're going to add class to target this UL. So we're going to add class, and then we're going to name it nav links. So once again, we have a nav. Then inside of the nav, we have an ordered list or UL, in which we're not using UL anymore. We're using the name class, or using the name nav links by using class to give it that name. And then inside of the UL, we have li, or the list items, and then we have anchor tags, where we put in our URLs and we name the links there. So, and just always remember as well, if this sometimes this got to me right in the beginning when I first started, was class equals dot. So when you're using a class in CSS, you can do it's class equals dot, and then ID equals, just to target anything, ID equals the pound sign. So what we're going to do now in the CSS is we are going to type everything down. Even if we're not using it, we're just going to type everything. That way we just get into the habit of the repetition and knowing what everything, the different elements or the different sections that we do have of our page here. So one thing we can do is, and I definitely do recommend that as well, because there's been a lot of times where like I just forget to add something to the CSS, or like an element to the CSS, and it just kind of like messes everything up. So in order to avoid that, it's good to just get into the habit of listing everything, and then that way you don't confuse yourself afterwards, especially in the beginning. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use asterisk, and then open curly braces, and then close curly braces. So what the asterisk is going to do is we're going to mess with the settings of the HTML. We're just going to use 3 things for it. And the reason why we just want to make it to the default is because, as you can see, the page already has it indented automatically. And we don't want that. We just want to start fresh. So what we're going to do here is we are just going to do margin, and once I set margin to 0, you're going to see it move on up, just like the Jeffersons, right? So as we move it up, we use with margin, we use padding, and then we set it to 0, and you're going to see it move to the left, and which it will be hugging the end of the page there. So it's like, please don't leave me, as you can see there. So once you have the padding, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do box sizing, and then we're going to do border box. And the reason why we're using border box is because normally, kind of like by default as well, from my understanding, is when you're working with a web page and you're using like a width and a height. Let's say for an example, if you're using 200 width and 200 height, and you want to add sometime down the road a margin or a padding, normally the padding and the margin gets added onto. So if you have 5 pixel margin and 5 and 10 pixel in padding, it's gonna get added to the 200. But normally, but if you use border box, it stays confined within the 200 height and the 200 width. There, the padding and the margin. So it'll find a way to add the 10 and the 5 uh, uh, padding and width. It'll find a way to have it added inside the 200 and 200 without adding it onto it, if that makes sense. So the next thing that we're going to do is, once again, we're just going to write everything down, that even if we're going to use it or not, we're just going to write it down. So the next thing is the body. Just in case the body, if you want to use if you want to change the background color, add a font, that way everything stays consistent throughout the whole page, or add a background image for the background as well. The next thing we can do as well is we can do the nav, and then open brackets and close curly brackets. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do nav links, which is targeting the UL. So we're going to do, remember what I mentioned a little earlier, which is if you're using a class, it's dot nav links, or it's dot the name that you decided. So we're going to use dot, and then we're going to use nav links, and then open curly bracket and close curly brackets. So once we have that, the next couple of things that we're going to finish off here with is we're going to use nav links again, dot nav links, but this time we are going to add the li, so the list. So we're targeting the li here inside of the UL class, but this UL class we're calling it nav link. So we're targeting the UL inside of we're targeting the li inside of the nav links here. And lastly, the last thing that we're going to have is we're going to have .nav links once again, but this time is we're going to type in a, open curly brackets and close curly brackets, and .nav links a is the anchor tag. So we are, just like we were doing with the li, we're targeting the anchor tags here inside of the nav links here. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we are going to go to the .nav link. Since it is the whole list, that's what we're going to be kind of like messing with or using. So we're going to be using the .nav links for now. So the first thing that we're going to do, and I just want to say, I 100,000% do recommend, if you are doing this, if you are having some trouble with grasping like grid or flexbox or box positioning, and so on and so forth, or page layout, I do recommend using border, and I'll tell you why. Because when I first started, like, it was just driving me crazy because I just couldn't grasp why like a column will be here and a row will be here, a column will be here, a row will be here, vice versa, or why one content is going to be here and the other is going to be here. I just couldn't visualize it. So when I just decided to take a step back, I added a border, and using a board and adding a border definitely helps out because it lets you visualize and see where the border is, or what you're talking about basically. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna add the border, and we can do a 1 pixel. You could use 2 pixels, 3 pixels as well. You can do solid, and then we can use orange. I like orange, and orange red is a pretty good color as well too. So we're gonna use border, once again, 1 pixel, solid and orange, and as you can see, it came up here. You won't be able to see it kind of like around because everything is a little, yeah, it's a little too close to the page there, to the top and to the left and to the right here, but on the bottom you can see that it's there, at least. So the next thing that we're gonna do here is we are going to do display, and then we are going to choose flex. And so right before I click it, so since it is a horizontal navbar that we are trying to make, what we're going to do is we're going to take this content and we are going to, instead of having it stand like vertically, we're going to have it move horizontally here. So if you can see flex, it's going to move it to the right there. It's going to move it horizontally. And once again, let me just comment this out. And in order to comment it out, you just highlight it and just press Control and in Windows, Control and / there. So as you can see, it's vertical, and if we use display and display flex, oops, as you can see, it's horizontal here. So the next thing that we're going to use once we have it horizontally is we are going to use justify content. Now justify content, what it's going to do, it's going to pretty much move it around the confines of its kind of like of its box. Think of it as, right. So we're going to be able to move it to the center, to the right, and so on and so forth as well. And correct me if I'm wrong. Definitely leave it in the comments. But one thing that I've noticed is either using display in Flexbox or grid, justify content won't work unless unless display is being used. And once again, please correct me if I'm wrong on that. But that's just something that I've been noticing as well. So I think of it as a switch, right? If you want this to work, if you want justify content to work, it won't work unless this switch is turned on. So you would have to use display flex to turn it on, basically. That way you can use justify content. And as we can see, justify content is just going to move the content around. So since it's on the left, it's by default, it's the content is on the left. It won't move it. So as you can see here, we have left. It's not going to move anything just because once again it's on the left. We can use flex start, and it's not gonna move at all either. But if you want to make it to the right, you can just type in right or choose the right, and it'll move it to the right. Or you can choose end, I believe, and it's the same thing. And flex end, I believe, also it's gonna move it to the right also, because you have the flex start, which is the to the left, and then flex end to the right side. And this is great as well, like having it to the right or to the end, because if you've noticed on different websites, they have their content to the or their links to the right. That way they have enough room around here for the logos, for a login field, a password field, any buttons, and a search bar, which is also great and helps out with like kind of like laying out the contents of your page there, of your nav bar. So we have end there, and then we also do have center, which is what we're going to use for this nav bar. We're going to use center here. And just to finish off here, I'm just going to show you 3 more things in justify content. We do have space around, and as you can see, when we click space around, it's going to give space around all of pretty much the content here. But the only thing is that it's the left of the first link and the right of the last link. It's not going to have the same space as what's in between. As you can see, this is not the same as this, but it is the same as this. So kind of like always remember, space around gives it space, but the outer are going to have the same spacing, but not the middle, or but not like in between there. So the next that we do have is space and then between. And as you can see, this one kind of like just forcefully like pushes the first link to the left, all the way to the left, like hugging the border here, and then contact me hugging the right side as well. So as you can see, we try to shake it off again, nothing. Shake it off, nothing, right? So that's what it pretty much does. Space, it focuses on giving more of the space in between the contents here. And lastly, what I like to use mostly here is space evenly. So as you can see the difference, you're definitely going to see the difference between space around and space between. But space evenly, it it gives even space, even between and to the left and to the right. So as you can see, compared to the other two, the space wasn't the same from here to here to here to here, but it was to here. But now it is. Using space evenly, it's equal, 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 equal here, which is great. So what we're going to do here is we are going to do center, since we're going to use center, and we're good here. Awesome. So the next thing that we're going to do is we have it how we want it, but it's not enough because you see it just doesn't look right. It looks like they're on top of each other, right? So in order to kind of have it stretched out, what we want to do is we want to use gap, not the store, by the way, not the store, but we're going to use gap. And by using gap, once again, we're just going to stretch out the links there. So let's do that. So we're going to use in small increments first. We're going to use 5. As you see, it kind of moved it up. We're going to use 15. It's moving it up. Okay, we like that. Let's use 30. Okay, let's use 50. Okay, and let's use 70 lastly. As you can see, it starts giving it much more space in between there. But for this example, we're going to use 30. Let's do 40. Okay, let's do 40. So we pretty much have our horizontal nav bar here. But the only thing is that normally when you go to different web pages, they're not going to have the same. They're not going to have the content like very close up. A lot of the times they're going to have it like spaced out all the way down here. And this is where having a border comes into play. So if you're having, it's a great idea. So if you're having some issues trying to just grasp margin and padding, this is a great example. So this is why I have a border so you can see. So we're gonna have border, we're gonna have margin top. What margin top is going to do is it's going to take the whole block and it's going to shift it down away from like the top of the page. So we just finish off here, and as you can see, it takes the whole thing and it just pushes it down. So we're just gonna comment this out once again, and then as you can see, this is before margin top is added, and then it moves the whole thing. So the next thing that we can do is we can look at padding top to see the difference. So if we look at the difference here, let's do 24 pixels, and as you can see, it pushes it down. So it pushes the content away from the border, from the top of the border. So that's why padding top, it pads it away from the top here. And I know some pages as well, they're gonna have like a line, like a horizontal line or a border on the bottom. This doesn't look right. So what we can do here is normally we can make this 24 and this 24 as well. So what we can do is we can just do padding, and then you can do 24 pixels and then just 0. That way it's just telling 24 on the top, 24 on the bottom evenly, and nothing on the sides here. So once we have that, we're pretty much done. Like it looks much better. Look, actually looks like a nav bar, right? So so the last few things that we're gonna do here is we are going to target the nav links li. So we have here, and you see the bullets here. So these bullets come with the list, the li. So that's why we are targeting the list here. So in order to take it off, we just go to, once again, the .nav links li, we target, and then we just type in list style. We write it out, list style, and then we're gonna do none. We're gonna type in none, and as you can see, it just completely got away. It's there and it's not there. And the cool thing about list style is that, as you just saw, like it just moved. Like you can do a square and it'll turn into a square, the bullets into a square. If you want it to be something else, like a circle, it's gonna have a circle like before, but it's not gonna be shaded in or filled in, which is great. But in this case, we are just going to use none, and voila, it's gone. So, and lastly, what we're going to do is, as you can see, since it is a link, it's going to be underlined. We're going to want to take out that underlined. And in order to do that, what we're going to do is we are going to do text. We're going to we are going to target the .nav links anchor tag. And then we're going to do text decoration. And then just as list style, you can kind of decorate it as well, like if you want line through. you'll see the line that's going through here, which is cool. But in this case as well, this example, we're going to do none, and we have that none. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then afterwards, what you're able to do is you can just start styling it how you like. So let's just add a few more things. So we can add background color just to the whole nav. So this is where the nav comes into play. The background color, we can use, let's say teal, right? Teal is a nice color. We could use teal, and we have just this part. And then if we want this, like this is, we can't really read this that much. It strains the eyes, but if we want, we can change that. We just go to the nav links anchor tag, since those are the links. We go color, and then we can put white here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So as you can see, it's a nice simple nav bar. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Please comment and like below as well. Comment below, sorry, like the video as well if you found it interesting and helpful. And please comment. I will be more than happy to read the comments as well. I'll be happy, if this video has helped some of you, to understand it or grasp it even more. And a lot of the times when it comes to coding, I've learned on this journey that I've been through already for the past 5 to 6 months is it's a lot of repetition. Just keep on repeating, keep on repeating. That's why, like, when you go on like social media, you'll see a lot of people saying do projects, do projects, do projects, because it is true. Like, the more you do projects, the more you kind of figure out why this goes there, that you have to put this in order to move this there, and a whole bunch of stuff. So repetition is definitely um super helpful. So once again, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll try to pull out more content when I feel like something that you guys would like as well. So yeah, thank you so much once again, and see you next time.